So to begin with, we've had a number of residents get in touch about the reopening of Oldham schools following the 1st of June reopening date. Thanks to Samantha, John, Paul and Pete for your questions on this topic. Firstly, I'd like to thank all parents, carers, teachers and other school staff for all their efforts during the difficult period. We've faced the challenge of ensuring that our children are safe, whilst at the same time also balancing that with the needs to ensure that young people don't miss out on too much of their education or fall behind. In Oldham, we're continuing to take a really cautious and safety-first approach to the opening of schools, and this means that no school in Oldham will take in additional pupils unless it is absolutely safe to do so. We're working closely with each school and educational setting on their health and safety assessments, and these must be in place before a school governing body takes any decision on the wider reopening of schools. We keep in regular contact with the schools and provide them with information on the wider situation, for example making sure that they're up to date with the latest coronavirus test, track and trace system. And as part of this process, we've also listened to parents and carers and fed that into our decision making. It's important to stress that anybody who decides that they do not feel comfortable sending their child into school will not face any punishment for non-attendance. This position that we've adopted here in Oldham is in common with the majority of other local authorities in Greater Manchester. But there are specific needs and requirements in Oldham, and so that's why each week we continue to review our position in line with the advice that we're receiving and the information that is coming out, so that we can make a really informed decision about the appropriate way to more widely reopen schools. I appreciate that people have had concerns over the R value, with the R value having been published a number of weeks ago. But the R number is a very broad regional prediction of the virus reproduction rate and needs to be set alongside other data, including our own local data in Oldham, which shows that the infection rate is dropping steeply, and as is the death rate. Indeed, the current infection rate in Oldham is around the average across Greater Manchester and lower than some of our neighbouring areas. Though of course the virus is still with us, and we'd urge parents, carers and all children and young people to continue to observe social distancing, particularly whilst travelling to and from school. Because if we all continue to play our part in tackling the threat of the virus, then the sooner we can all return to some degree of normality. Had a question in from Gledhill on Twitter concerning the number of cases in Oldham and what's being done to reduce the borough's infection rate. So we know that the impact of coronavirus across the borough has been really significant, affecting the lives of individuals, families and entire communities. And national data and reports, including a recent report by Public Health England, have shown that the impact of coronavirus across the country has not been evenly spread, and the impact has been greatest in areas with high levels of poverty and deprivation and higher levels of underlying health conditions within the population. We also know that nationally, black and minority ethnic communities have seen greater impacts of coronavirus, and all these factors are likely to have had an impact on the relatively higher number of cases in Oldham. However, we also know that the number of cases in each area will be influenced by the amount of testing that's been undertaken. And in Oldham, we've acted early to proactively offer testing to our care home staff and residents ahead of this being a national priority. To complement the national testing offer, where tests can be requested online or by phone, we've offered testing to health and care staff at sites in Failsworth and also at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, and have worked with the military to provide a testing unit in Oldham. Whilst Oldham has had one of the highest rates of cases over the course of the whole pandemic, we've also seen a more considerable reduction in the infection rate than other areas in recent weeks. Our rate of new cases for the last 2 weeks, up to the 4th of June, is now in line with the rest of Greater Manchester. Stephen and Aisha have sent in similar questions regarding the return of Oldham's weekly food waste collections. Now, we know that there's been disruption to the refuse collection because of staff absence and also the necessity to maintain social distancing in the cabs of the bin wagons, and that's why we've had to make the changes that we have. But we're constantly reviewing the service provision as things change, if the social distancing rules are relaxed, or as more members of staff come back to work, we will make the changes that we're able to reinstate a fuller collection compared to the one that we're currently running with. So please bear with us, and we will return to the kind of waste collections that you're used to as soon as possible. Next, we've had some questions in on how Oldham will support local businesses as they reopen, including a separate question regarding the traders at Tommyfield Market Hall and their rent situation. Thanks to Spend Solutions, Broster71 and Des for your questions. So our vision for a long time is to become Greater Manchester's inclusive economy capital. And what that means is that more people spend money locally, and not just people, but also the public sector and other organisations choose to procure and buy goods and services from local firms, even in cases where it might be a little bit more expensive than going elsewhere. So we need to be more committed than ever after coronavirus to making this model work, because the way that we will rebuild after the crisis and ensure that the economy moves forward more quickly is to spend more of our money locally and keep more money in the economy here in the Borough of Oldham. In terms of the future of town centre shops, you will have all seen the national headlines for many retailers who claim to have suffered from the out-of-town large retail complexes and hypermarkets, and also the suffering that they've had from the convenience of online shopping. So the future of retail is not something that the council can control directly, and it is something that's affecting all towns and cities, as I'm sure most people out there watching this will appreciate. But with our passion to build that truly inclusive economy and the loyalty that shoppers in Oldham show to local businesses and to places like the market and local shops in the towns and villages that make up the borough, we are best placed and better placed arguably than other places to really support local shops and businesses and come out of this crisis stronger and more quickly than other people in other areas might do. The question about market rents, well, rent payments are essential to keep the markets running, and not collecting them would really restrict the council's ability to provide security, to protect the staff that was left in situ when the market was closed, to provide the ongoing building maintenance that is necessary on the market hall, and to pay the utility bills that are still coming in to keep the services running there. Most recently, we've also had to provide extra measures to reopen the market for the safety of market traders, customers and staff in line with the social distancing guidance. The pandemic's had a massive impact on council finances, and we can't really afford to squeeze it further when we know that the virus is far from over and we're likely to face more costs and more loss of income as a result of coronavirus. So it's really, really difficult to offer a rent reduction or any other kind of rent holiday for the market traders. Many traders have, however, taken advantage of the business grants that have been available to local businesses. Some are receiving the grants of £10,000 from ourselves, and a number of businesses that operate stalls in other markets and other local authorities are also sometimes eligible for grants from those councils as well. We're also using our business support staff to help the market traders and help any business for that matter to try and get back to some degree of normality, or provide advice on how they might adapt their business to the new situation that we find ourselves in. Different to other local authorities, we have established a discretionary fund with our own money from reserves that market traders and other businesses can bid into when they were not eligible for the original round of grant funding. Philip on Twitter has asked whether our Creating a Better Place master plan for the town centre will still go ahead. So Creating a Better Place is a long-term vision for regenerating the entire borough by building new homes, creating employment opportunities and ensuring that there are programmes in place to recruit apprentices. The pandemic has had a huge impact on unemployment, and so the need to deliver on these commitments is arguably more important than it ever was. The public sector and infrastructure investment will have a huge role to play in rebuilding the economy, and the council will continue to invest in Oldham and build back better. The ambition for Creating a Better Place has not changed. We need a strong Oldham town centre and district centre offer. We want a green borough that embraces sustainability and energy efficiency. We want safe, family-friendly places to visit, and a nighttime economy that is truly thriving. The public sector is never going to achieve or deliver all of this ambition on our own. We need to continue working in partnership with the private sector to make this happen, and we will ensure that the limited public funds available are used to enhance, protect or support the lives of residents. There have been 2 questions sent in from Pete and Jeff on social distancing. One in reference to Barry Gardner, a Labour MP in Brent in London. Not sure what that has to do with Oldham, but he attended a demonstration. And one about the work I've been doing in my local area. So a couple of weeks ago, a few people got a bit giddy about a photograph that was circulated by opposition politicians and known associates and sympathisers with the local far right on social media, suggesting that me and the local MP for where I live, Angela Rayner, were not following social distancing guidelines and were hypocritical for having criticised Dominic Cummings. They didn't seem to realise that what the photo actually showed was me, Angela and Pete Davis, one of the other Failsworth councillors, using our Saturday mornings to go down to a site where there had been a party taking place in the open air and lots of waste deposited on the ground that needed picking up. Now, the nature of the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party and the Leader of the Council turning up on your street is that when people see them out of the window, they tend to want to go and speak to them. So when we went down there to pick up rubbish, we were approached by a number of residents who wanted to tell us about their experiences the night before, and there were a couple of passing dog walkers that also wanted to speak to us who live nearby too. At all times we maintained social distance because we know how important it is to do that. And we also did a great job in helping people clear up some of the mess from the night before. Now, to me, the kind of criticism that people tried to level at me and the MP and Councillor Davis for going out and helping in the community and pick up litter speaks more about their morals than it does about mine or those of Angela or Peter. To equate attending a demonstration demanding equality or going to pick up litter in the area that you represent to support local people, to equate those things with a man who flagrantly breached social distancing guidelines, travelled across the country when somebody in his family had coronavirus symptoms, and then took an illegal visit to a nearby attraction while he was 200, 300 miles away from home. To equate that with what me and Angela were doing and what Barry Gardner were doing is frankly ridiculous. So I make no apology for going down to the 8 Bells on Alder Road in Failsworth that morning and helping local residents clear up and speaking to them. And I just think people need to move on and find legitimate reasons to criticise me rather than trying to generate a story that simply did not exist. With more of our residents using their bikes during this period, Tom on Twitter has asked if there will be any more cycle lanes between Oldham and Manchester to ensure safer travel for residents during their daily commute. So we are looking at various ways that we can support people to cycle and walk to work, shops and other facilities as they reopen as part of the Safe Streets Save Lives campaign. And this includes key corridors around our town and district centres. We're also looking at how we might accelerate some of our existing longer term plans for better walking and cycling infrastructure to help sustain increased levels of cycling and walking, and we're working closely with TFGM and the Greater Manchester Mayor's cycling and walking team on this. We've launched a commonplace consultation website, and you can find that at safestreetsoldham.commonplace.is, and that runs until the 30th of June, where residents can tell us about locations where changes may be needed to help them get about safely by bike and on foot, and we'll use this feedback to help make the borough safer for people to travel around safely. Joanne on Facebook has asked a question about the hardship payment and whether people in receipt of council tax reduction are eligible. So the £150 hardship payment will be applied to the council tax accounts of those of working age who are in receipt of council tax reduction. This will be applied to qualifying accounts once a software upgrade from Capita is in place, and Capita is the council tax system supplier. Unfortunately, the most recent information from Capita is that the update will not be in place until the end of June. This is an issue for all councils using this system, and Oldham Council is continuing to press capita to make progress. However, at the moment, we're not taking any debt recovery action, and so anybody who is eligible for that discount but has not had it applied to the account yet and is not paying will not see any action taken against them until after it has been applied. Final quick question from Paul on Facebook, who's asked when the park benches in Alexandra Park will be reinstalled. They've not been ripped up. We've taken the opportunity to repair and replace and paint the damaged ones during the recent lockdown. So they're gradually being returned to the park over the coming weeks, and you'll see them start appearing very soon.